Do you want to know how to deal with out-of-control teens? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, and child development through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about out-of-control teens. Many people know me for the work that I did on the BBC documentary called The World's Strictest Parents, where they brought two teens to our home to stay for 8 days. And then in an amazing turn of events, they came in out of control and they left begging not to leave our house. People wondered why and how this happened. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of my experience working with troubled teens, out-of-control teens, and my own teens. And we're going to talk about things that you can do to help some of the out-of-control teens in your life. For many years, I was a therapeutic treatment care parent for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18, and they came to my home for therapeutic care. The majority of these teens had trauma and abuse in their backgrounds, but they also had neurodiversities, things like ADHD and ODD and RAD and FAS, compulsive behaviors like kleptomania, compulsive lying, compulsive anger control, anger management issues. They had reactive attachment disorders, personality disorders, all kinds of things, bipolar, autism spectrum, those types of things they were dealing with, as well as having the trauma and not having learned the skills that they needed in their background as well. And they were all teens. In this video, what I want to share with you is what I did that made such a difference with these teens, even the teens that were very neurodiverse, which some people would say is probably the most tricky. When working with children, whether they're young or whether they're old, whether they're neurotypical or neurodiverse, predictability is key to success. See, all children have anxiety, but when someone is neurodiverse, they even have higher levels of anxiety. Or when they're younger, they have higher levels of anxiety too. But in the teen years, there's also an amount of anxiousness, sometimes even just angst too. The anxiousness and the angst can oftentimes be rooted back to an anxiety, maybe not feeling understood or like somebody is really caring about them. This is one of the things that leads to that teen out of control behavior. So what do you do if you're going to be completely predictable and you're working with out of control teens? Well, you decide to proactively teach them everything that they need ahead of time to solve their problems, to communicate with you, to get their point across to you. You let them know how you'll listen to them, when you'll listen to them. You'll let them know when you need to point them toward calmness. So here's the thing. When a person is going completely out of control, it's usually because they're struggling with their own calmness. It's not as much about trying to control you as it is about them not feeling like they know how to control themselves. And probably their focus is on the wrong thing. They're probably focusing on trying to control you or trying to control their circumstances and other people around them instead of focusing on controlling themselves first. An out of control person needs to face the truth that what they really need to control is themselves, not everybody else. Now, this goes for the parents too. If you're working with an out of control child, should you be trying to control them? No, of course not. What you should be trying to do is control yourself. So everything I teach here on this channel is about self-government. And if you've already subscribed to this channel before, then you probably have seen that I come back to this principle of self-government again and again. And I teach the skills that are related to the principles so that people can actually really use self-government in their life, even if they've never learned to before now. So what is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So what does that mean? That means that a person understands how they think, what choices they have, and how to control themselves so that they make only the productive choices and use the productive emotions instead of the non-productive choices and the non-productive emotions. So when a person is self-governing, they evaluate themselves prior to taking any action, and they say, what type of a person ought I to be? If I was the best version of me, what would it be like? Now keep in mind, this goes for parents and children alike. Then they make a plan for themselves going forward for how to become that type of person. Well, there are skills that are needed, tools that are needed. Many people aren't calm and they don't communicate effectively because they don't have the proper tools. When your child is screaming at you, when they're going out of control, when they won't listen to you, that's usually because they want to be understood, but they don't have the tools for how to get understood. This creates increased anxiety. So really, it's the anxiety coming out with, how am I going to get my point across? How am I going to make that other person understand me? When really they need to make themselves be calm and then use their skills for communicating with you so that you can now come to a place of understanding. If all of your communications are reactive, there are going to be fights, power struggles, battles, instead of good connective communication that leads to understanding and good cooperation between parents and children. So this channel, the Teaching Self-Government channel, teaches lots of different skills that you can use to help your teen be able to stay in control. So there are 4 basic skills that I teach in my TSG parenting course, which you can find at teachingselfgovernment.com, all geared toward teaching parents and children the basics of self-government. The 4 basic skills take care of 99% of behavioral problems. The 4 basic skills are following instructions. If you do not expect your child to follow instructions, if you do not give them the steps for how to follow an instruction, then how are they going to ever follow their own instructions? If they can't learn to follow yours, will they follow their own? Some personalities might, but many personalities won't. They need to know how to do follow through. There are 5 steps to that. If a person will not follow instructions from their parent, they actually can't be parented. The second 4 basic skill is accepting no answers and criticism. When a person learns to accept no answers and criticism, they can handle it a lot better if somebody doesn't completely understand where they're coming from, or they didn't get their way about something, or maybe they lost something or had a bad moment where they didn't perform to their very best. They can handle those moments. There are 4 steps for accepting a no answer and criticism. The third of the 4 basic skills is accepting consequences. If your children don't get the opportunity to accept consequences from you, will they really learn self-government? They might not. A person has to get the opportunity to accept their negative consequences. If you just do something to them, then they didn't have to accept anything. And the battle will always be between you and them instead of between them and them, which is where the self-government battle actually exists. The fourth of the 4 basic skills is disagreeing appropriately. If they really want to be understood, don't you think it would be kind of us to teach them how to get understood from us and how to do it in an appropriate and respectful manner? There's a skill set called disagreeing appropriately. It has 7 steps to it. That skill set helps them seek to understand, then to be understood, and gives the parent the opportunity to work on their skill of listening as well. Those are just the 4 basic skills of self-government. There are other skills that a person needs to be fully self-governing. One of those skills is self-regulation, or how to be calm. Every person, parents and children, should all understand what it feels like when they are calm and when they're not calm, and they should have a calm plan. When children are little, we might have a calm down spot. But when they get older, words and cues can lead a person to choose calmness. Calmness is a choice. If we wait for calmness to happen to our child or our teen every single time, then they won't ever recognize that they can choose it. And it is empowering to know that they chose the calmness. So what that means is we need to teach our children and our teens how we will help them choose calmness when they really need to. This brings me to an intensive teaching skill that I call the rule of 3. I teach all about the rule of three in my TSG parenting course. But just to understand how the process works in a more simplified fashion, basically you do three things 3 times. You do a pre-teach, which has multiple steps to it, give an instruction, and then do the 6 steps for a correction. You do all those things 3 times unless the child chooses to follow an instruction. The rule of three is designed for a person who is unwilling to follow instructions. It is important that you recognize if they don't do any of those 5 steps to following instructions, they are considered to be out of instructional control. And this is when you would use that rule of three with them. The rule of three leads to 3 negative consequences. These are the biggest negative consequences we have, and we don't exceed these negative consequences in severity. It's not necessary. But the children do know that they are choosing these negative consequences if they don't follow the instruction during the rule of three process. That rule of three process is not about the consequences, however. The rule of three process is about the person choosing to have a change of heart, for them to go, oh, I have to pick to be calm. If I'm going to be understood and talk about this, I have to change me. That's very, very important. So often when someone goes out of control, we think, oh, we've got to control them. Now, if they're going to be a danger to themselves or to somebody else, we could have to restrain a person. There is a way to do that, and I teach that in my TSG parenting course. Most people, however, don't ever need to get to restraint if they have a system in place that helps the child know how to go from not calm to being calm. I highly recommend that. If you have a teen that's out of control, the TSG parenting course will probably really help you. The TSG parenting course is on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. Right now, you can get 20% off that TSG parenting course by using the coupon code at checkout, TSG Deals. That course will take you step by step through you and your children all learning self-government skills and mastery together. It will unify your relationships and improve your family culture. Go to teachingselfgovernment.com today. I'll see you there.